Welcome back and thank you for staying with KTN Prime. Now we dive into a conversation, and joining me for this particular conversation to my immediate right is Fanyamambo Kinuthia, a lawyer, and next to him is Maliba Arnold, the party leader, Progress Plus Alliance. Good evening, gentlemen. Karibuni sana.
Very good evening to you.
All right, so let's start with what happened yesterday. President William Ruto yesterday assented into the conflict of interest bill, and a lot happened during that signing ceremony, but let's just listen.
Resource, every coin, every cent, every shilling that is paid as taxes by the people of Kenya or in any other manner is used only for the intended purpose. It's also significant that Kenyans in their entirety can participate in making sure that we hold public officers to account for the exercise of the authority and power that they have. It's illegal for officers serving in positions, whether they are in the judiciary, the legislature, or in the executive, to abuse the authority they have in their offices and to undermine the rule of law and abuse the resources that the people of Kenya have put together.
So today as we gather here, I know there are individuals, there may be couples, there may be families who conspire to defraud our country of the limited resources that we have as we put this law in place. I pray that as our president appends his signature on this law, that signature will be from heaven and with the force of heaven, so that those people who may be tempted to circumvent it, they will face not the justice of the land only, but also the justice of heaven.
All right, that is yesterday during the ascension of the Conflict of Interest Act. And this particular law is meant to tame conflict of interest in the public service by consolidating all relevant provisions under a single law. It equally has other provisions, but we'll get to it as we go. Maliba, perhaps I can start with you. So EACC has been granted full oversight, but is this the silver bullet that is really needed in the country to fight graft and corruption?
I think looking at the law and even the acting done at that particular place, I want to call the skit that we saw there, it's really disheartening because, number one, you cannot pray corruption out of its way. That's the chair EACC. He went into his old cloth and then decided to work out. But then quickly, probably let's just put this thing into context. Number one, this is window dressing. As much as, of course, there is a very good thesis around why this particular piece of legislation is important, the people in that room and the civil service has already perfected the art of beating the laws. So this most likely is a law that has actually been done to check out requirements by international bodies that are working with us, like IMF, World Bank, and other institutions that have continuously complained about conflict of interest. In the thesis, of course, they say that this is for purposes of consolidating all the laws around conflict of interest, giving administrative role around conflict of interest to EACC. But you really, there was already sufficient laws in different statutes on conflict of interest. What the political class has done, and everybody else is actually working around, or rather the people around these issues, that they've already perfected, come up with ways of beating conflict of interest. Very few people are actually being caught around this. Otherwise, actually, I would ask you this. The president's salary is about 1.2 million. So per year, that is about 14.4 million shillings. So give or take, plus allowance and everything else, let's say the president per year should be earning about 20 million. Then the president gives, almost on every Sunday basis, goes to one church. Just giving an example, the president is giving out 20 million shillings. In one Sunday, or rather on a weekend, he shows up at an event, gives 20 million shillings. As in, you really want to ask where that money comes from. I will still repeat what I've said here before. If selling mandazi, chai and samosa at Weston can give the president as much money as possible, then the private sector would be, the private sector who actually are doing the same business will actually be in business that is booming. If his chicken will get as much money as that, otherwise why would one man be throwing around money worth his year's salary just that way? The conflict of interest is supposed to address these issues. So whatever was being done there, for me, is window dressing. We are ticking to ensure that we comply with IMF and other laws elsewhere to appear like we are fighting corruption, but we are not, and we are not willing to stop. Secondly, if you look at the chairperson of EACC, choosing to pray, it simply says one thing, that he's already given up. You know, he has to gaslight these guys through prayer, for probably to try and prick their conscience if they actually, something has to be done. He's already given up. He doesn't really believe in, if you listen to that prayer has, it didn't even trust the president's signature. He said that signature should come from heaven because he could not even trust the president's signature. As in, if the chairperson does not even believe in the president, he was there. And I think the chairperson, having been a preacher or being a preacher, chose to be a very truthful man. He knew that he was there administratively, but realistically it couldn't work. So he chose to pray over it. Much of Pontius Pilate washing his hands out of it. This very much, EACC also looks like so many other agencies that we have. That you look at EACC and it's simply a bribe collection toll station. And every policy that comes up is only one new tool given to the people out there to ensure that they will use it to actually do bribe collection. Same thing will speak to what Nakada did yesterday. If you look at what Nakada did yesterday, quote unquote, the proposal, the policy, or whatever they are doing, I'll tell you what it is. Some people at that particular agency have actually sat down and realized that no money is coming in. So you come up with a new proposal that becomes a new toll station. They will use that to do mergers and acquisition, buying land, finishing the houses they are building. And then we are left with situations where the people who are supposed to fight corruption can only pray against corruption.
Okay. Yeah. Coming to you, Fanyamambo, I mean, do you agree that it's just a window dressing or a tool that is being used? And even as you answer, let's not forget that Kenya is not short of policies. It's the implementation that is always the problem. Do you think there's enough goodwill, political goodwill, to ensure that we really do fight corruption?
Bishop Oginde, I am sorry, you're not used to people telling you to your face that you're out of order. That was a drama at State House. You were acting out a skit that we are not interested in. Bishop Oginde, let me tell you that under your watch, eCitizen has lost 44 billion. Yani, the money that is collected on eCitizen is not going to the consolidated fund, which is contrary to Article 206 of our Constitution. What else does he need to be told? There is so much corruption happening under your nose, and you are still there, and you are still a bishop, and you are praying. Come on, resign. Stop wasting Kenyans' time. I mean, the scandals, unaamka unasikia eCitizen has lost 15 billion. eCitizen is not remitting money to the consolidated fund. eCitizen has done, the port of Mombasa has lost 100 billion.
Ghost workers in schools.
Ghost workers. You know, there's a church being built in State House against the laws of this country. And by the way, if you don't understand, if you're a tenant, we give you that house, you're a tenant. You can't be a hostile tenant who comes and decides to change the roof without the permission of the landlord. We are the landlords and modify it. So Bishop Oginde, there's so many bad things that are happening under your watch, and if I were you, I would resign. I wouldn't be sitting on that seat. Because you're the chairman of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. And you have seen corruption happening. You know, there's a time the head of state said something, and this is totally connected to corruption. He said, those people who are destroying critical government infrastructure, that was when maandamano was happening, should be shot. Hata kama ni risasi ya mguu. Critical government infrastructure. Now, you come with a stone, you stone a hospital. They call you a terrorist. Unapelekwa pale koti za kahawa. You are given a cash bill of 100,000 because they know you can't afford. And then there is another economic terrorist who steals the whole health system in this country. Inaitwa Shaje Jijoju. That guy is not an economic terrorist. That guy is not charged. Nothing happens to that guy. Somebody comes to a critical government infrastructure called e-citizen and sweeps away everything that gets into that account. And that person is not a terrorist. The terrorist is sayu ukienda pale NTSA urushe mawe moja during maandamano, unaambiwa una destroy critical government infrastructure ama huduma center kwenye hii pesa ya e-citizen inatoka. So what we are trying to tell Bishop Oginde is that you are in State House with the wrong people. You are praying over the wrong people. You are praying about the wrong things. I think the only prayer we need is to pray for you so that you can see the light and resign. That's all. That's all you need. You need to resign. Because corruption has happened, corruption is happening, money is being stolen, and there's nothing you are doing.
Okay.
But probably we should be actually kind on Bishop.
Why?
Number one, the only thing I can actually fault Bishop for is that he sounded like he knows the people in that room who steal. He said there could be couples, there could be people in here. So that is the only bit we could actually, like, he's not reported them to the police. Instead, he's praying for them. Otherwise, I think as a man of the cloth, he has been there and he's realized that everything is hopeless. So he only used the tool he knows best, and that is prayer.
Okay,
Yeah.
And you've talked about the issue of couples. This particular law says that public officers will be required to recuse themselves from decisions where they have a personal interest and must declare their income, assets, and liabilities, including those of their spouses and dependent. But what about proxies?
You see, first of all, that particular piece of legislation is not new in our legal framework. Of course, this act, or rather, initially, when it was a bill, it actually sought to consolidate all these laws.
Yeah.
So, the part of the couple is easy and straight. And still, recusal has always been there. But what have these guys been doing? They still have got proxies over and above. Today, there is nothing, there is no decision in the public service that is actually made within the civil service. Nothing in government, decisions including procurement, is not done within government. It's always done outside of government. So, you are not going to actually beat that particular system. We have got a state within a state set aside to run all the affairs of state. And then when you see such like stuff like bills that are being passed, when you see meetings of the cabinet, the decisions have already been made elsewhere. And for CSS, they sit there just to, number one, check. So that, of course, it's a requirement in law that the cabinet has to sit. But all those decisions are done outside of the civil service. That is why you actually find the mismatch. And then you are going to have situations where for 2 years you tell people about a means testing instrument and how financing is going to be done. And then when pressure becomes a little bit, there's too much pressure, then you do a single letter and tell universities to reverse, because decisions are being done elsewhere. That thing that is led by David Ndii, that economic council, whatever, that is the technical arm that sees decisions that are done everywhere, then streamlines it, gives it a policy talk, makes them look like they're educated arguments. Otherwise, like I've said, the law is simply to comply with other requirements elsewhere to ensure that they can unlock resources and financing for such elsewhere, because these laws already exist. Number two, that act that was there was for purposes of just, like he said, it was drama, that is a skit, and that's how it ends up. The only thing that they take away from that particular event was not even hope that we are going to actually fight corruption. No hope, no commitment. Okay. The only thing that we took away was a prayer against the people that are there.
The council
so
corruption.
The only thing that we actually probably might, I know hope is not a strategy, but we should also now hope that God had Bishop Oginde and that he can do what he did to Ananias and Sapphira.
Okay, but hope is not a strategy, even as we conclude this particular part of this conversation. I mean, you remember what the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta, said. We lose around 2 billion every single day. And coupled up with everything else that we know. So then where are we headed as a country if we cannot even fight this demon called corruption?
It's very easy. One of the reasons why this nation is corrupt is because there are things we have allowed the private sector to do that government should have done. When I was growing up, it was normal to see a county grader fixing the road outside my place. Today, what they have done is they've grounded all county graders so that every time there is a problem with my road, a private contractor can be told to fix it. It is bad manners. I mean, we have not seen nations that use common sense, having private companies fixing their roads left, right, and center. I mean, it should be government responsibility to do most of this stuff. We have privatized so much and privatized everything so that government becomes a government that offers no service completely. They just take away from us. And that is where the problem is. But fighting corruption is easy. Losing 2 billion shillings a day in the context that Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta said it was different. I probably import clothes from Uganda. At the border, I'm supposed to pay 10,000 shillings as duty for them. And there's someone who is telling me, give me 2,000 and save 8,000. Okay. So I opt to do so. So there are many ways in which Kenya loses all this money. But actually, if we increase opportunities for people in this country, then corruption will not happen.
Okay. Let's move to Tanzania. So TZ banned foreigners from certain business activities within its borders, 15 small-scale businesses sectors. And this beats the whole purpose of EAC integration, doesn't it?
Well, the EAC process, or rather, this whole thing we call the East African community, of course, it's progressive. We've made a little bit of progress. There's common customs, common market protocol. There's so much, of course. Where we are stuck now is not being able to have the political integration. It's a challenge. But then we have to put the decisions done in Tanzania against the backdrop of what is happening locally. This is an election year. So you expect the ruling party that is facing serious challenges on the ground to come up with a lot of populist and drastic decisions to win, because what is happening today is that the regime of the day, the leadership of the day has actually gone into regime survival mode. And once a regime is actually, or rather an administration is in regime survival mode, they do a lot of stuff. See how they're dealing with activists. We have got an opposition leader who is actually in jail, and things are being done in a little bit out of order, because the government of the day really is facing a challenge from the people, and they are out there making all those decisions. But I wouldn't fault Tanzania, because every government is elected primarily to take care of the interests of its own people. So we have, and the truth is that a lot of Kenyans will actually be affected. But on a day when businesses in Tanzania, Kenyan-owned business in Tanzania, where Kenyan businessmen in Tanzania are actually facing a threat, Nairobi, as usual, is actually just glozing over this. Like today, you would have expected, for example, the CS for Foreign Affairs, Musalia Mudavadi, to actually have done something about it. But he was busy in Malaba trying to meet MCS to ensure that probably his party can win the by-elections that will be coming in. Yet, even IEBC has not declared the vacancies yet. But he was busy on that at the end. We saw a lazy letter done by the CS for Trade, complaining like the rest of us. And then we saw today another different letter done by the CS for EAC. Like, for example, today, if Nairobi really cared about its people in Tanzania, you will actually have expected a meeting between CS Foreign Affairs, the EAC CS, and the CS for Trade. Nothing like that has been done. We've just seen half-hearted statements done. The EAC CS says that she has written to the Secretariat and reported, and then, as in, what is the difference between the CS, or rather the government, and we the people? Okay. Because she sounds like the rest of us on social media.
All right.
And of course, they will be so quick to tell you these issues are done diplomatically and such. We are people who have got our heads that are working. We see what Tanzania is doing. We see how that other country is actually running its affairs. But here you will be told, you don't understand diplomacy. This is how it is done. Nairobi's weak diplomatic posture has actually made our neighbors to play around. Even as we talk about business and what is happening in Tanzania, yesterday Uganda's president was here. His son, who is the chief of defense forces, has been making very volatile statements. And no one asked, it was not discussed. Once you actually make Nairobi become a joke to our neighbors, then you have got kids born in purple like Mohozi being able to make statements like the ones he does every day, and he gets away with it. But why wouldn't Mohozi do what he's doing if Kampala can be allowed to come to Nairobi and capture Kizza Besigye and get away with it? Again, that particular department, or rather Musalia Mudavadi, said nothing. There was no protest from Nairobi. There was nothing. So William Ruto's administration is properly an administration that has really weakened our political posture, or rather our diplomatic position in the region.
Okay.
But then you will understand why we are where we are. The Tanzanians will say, hii serikali ni serikali ya wahuni na vibaka tu. Because, na kuanzia kwa rais mwenyewe ni muhuni, ukiangalia serikali yake imejaa vibaka.
Let's be respectful.
No, as in, I know actually you probably do not know Swahili, but whatever I have said.
What do you mean? I'm Costarian, I know.
No, being Costarian does not make you, let me just help you.
Okay.
I know I shouldn't be helping you ordinarily, but being Costarian does not necessarily mean that you're good in Swahili. If you want to check out, just realize how we people from the Western, sisi huwa tuongee Kiswahili, huwa tuna implement Kiswahili. And by the way, we pass Kiswahili very well.
True.
So,
but anyway, on that note, let's just take a short break. We'll be back. We'll go.